Hello, good evening, televiewers. Welcome to another edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. Today in the program, we are going to be looking at the timid start of the 2019-2020 school year, especially in the Northwest and Southwest regions. And we are going to be discussing developments coming all the way from South Africa, Nelson Mandela, South Africa. We find out whether in his grief he should be smiling or regretting what is happening out there with immigrants from other countries from Africa who have gone to South Africa to make a living as they flee from their respective countries because of the difficult living conditions there. We discuss these two topics with our panelists who are already in the house. One is still awaited, he's on his way. Tamfu Jones is the Secretary General of Modegna Party. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity again to come here today and look into the things that are driving the world these days, especially Africa and Cameroon in particular. It's always a great pleasure to come and see how I can contribute to nation building.
Did Modegna do campaign for back to school?
Well, back to school campaign should be done by every Cameroonian. But unfortunately, knowing fully well that in the Northwest and the Southwest are educational regions, we have all known that when it comes to education, the people of the Northwest and the Southwest can't be told to go back to school. If the environment is conducive, school goes back without anybody campaigning for that. So if people have to campaign for back to school, it shows that there is a problem. So the problem should be solved and children will go back to school quietly.
Did you not tell me whether Modegna campaigned or not?
I said Cameroon, all Cameroonians should campaign.
No, I was asking Modegna.
Yeah, is Modegna not in Cameroon? Modegna is in Cameroon. That's why I said all Cameroonians are involved. That's why Modegna is in Cameroon.
Dr. Ningwanyam, social entrepreneur, politician, and an educationist par excellence, is also in the house. Good evening, Doc. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's just but everybody's wish that every child should go back to school. We've already lost 3 years and we are getting into the 4th year. And it's not funny that we sit and then see children kind of like getting lost and, you know, their futures being messed up because they're not going to school. We have to do everything for the children to go back to school.
Did you campaign for back to school?
Yes, I campaigned for children to go back to school. I mean, I was campaigning with the understanding that the problems will be solved so that the environment will be conducive for them to go back to school with no hitches.
Okay. Equally in the program with us is Walang Abang. He is a political analyst and the director of Mahatma Institute of
Mahatma African Leadership Center.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. It's always a pleasure for me to be here. I'm also delighted to meet panelists like Dr. Nick Guayam, Mr. Tamfu. It's always a pleasure to edify Cameroonians, you know, who are watching My Media Prime, particularly Prime Hour, in their millions. I hope we are going to be able to live up to their expectations.
The African Institute Leadership Institute, what?
The Mahatma African Leadership Center.
Yes. You want to groom leaders for tomorrow. I'm sure 7 leaders.
Yes, we believe that, you know, Africa is so lacking in the domain of leadership. You know, we have people who are governing Africa today, but who are themselves who call on Africans to serve them rather than, you know, providing the service that Africans desperately need. So we are teaching some kind of a leadership, you know, through service to preparing the African youths so that they can, you know, assume responsibility through service. That is, they work for the growth of Africa. And that is the main point, you know, about the African Leadership Center.
Okay. Did you in any way support the Back to School campaign?
Yes, to be quite honest, I did. You know, although the initiative was not mine, but I supported one of your somebody who has been on your panel several times, Mr. Jude,
Mbaku Jude,
yes, who has this program, you know, educate the child or educate the youth. I was a very serious supporter of that project, you know, that called on children in the Northwest and Southwest of Cameroon to go back to school. Like Dr. Nick said, I think that, we ought to have been doing that, in relation to a conducive environment for these children to go back to school, because it's not just going back to school, but it's about going back to school and being alive. So I think that there was supposed to be some kind of accompanying measures by the government and other stakeholders to make sure that the environment was conducive for these children to go back to school.
Okay, timid school resumptions out there in all the divisions of the Northwest and Southwest region, except for Donga, Mantung, Kambe, to be precise. Thankful is it to say that the campaigns flopped? It failed. People did not turn out as campaigns for. Was it out of conviction or out of fear?
Being out of conviction, being out of fear, all that is flopped. Because what we need in life is the result, and the process is not always much considered. Because if you are doing something that at the end result will not be positive, I think it is useless. Because we cannot be campaigning for school and we know that there is a problem and we don't see into how to solve the problem. We only campaign to school and don't put measures in place which will make the environment conducive for children to go back to school, and we hope that children will go back to school. I think that that was a failed attempt from the beginning.
It was a failed attempt from the beginning. Are we dancing around the circle, Doctor, for 3 years? Because every year at the beginning of a school year, we see ministers rushing down to the Northwest and Southwest region. We see big wigs of the CPDM party and other top administrative officials doing similarly what just happened, yet nothing is moving. Are we dancing?
Yes, yes. So I was expecting that as the ministers and the parliamentarians were going up north, west, and south, they would take their kids with them, because that has been the tradition, before 2016, that before at the beginning of the school year, the ministers and directors would ship their children to the regions. But they were coming this time without their kids, and instead of the kids, they had military people around them. So if they didn't bring along their kids, then something is wrong, and they know that something is wrong.
They know that something is wrong, but is it, if this year you dance around a circle, the second year, the third year, are we saying that we are not learning from history?
Well, if Africans were learning from history, or if Africans were not doing the same thing all the time, expecting a different result, Africa would have been a great continent.
Walang, what has the fact that people are not going to school, what have been the gains?
Well, that people are not going to school in the Northwest and the Southwest region, the gains have only been in the French-speaking regions,
okay.
as far as I'm concerned. Because let me elaborate, that a little. There is human capital that is moving from the Southwest and Northwest regions, enormously into the littoral and west center and other regions of the French-speaking part of Cameroon. So the gain, and in reality, there are other places where, children cannot move because of lack of means. So the parents do not have the means to send them to the French-speaking region so that they can acquire, good education, or education that is provided at this level. So the loss at that level is very enormous. When a child spends a complete year in the house not going to school, you can't imagine. They said the idle brain or the idle mind is the devil's workshop. You can't imagine the amount of temptation, evil temptations that child can be exposed to. So those are some of the reasons. Number two, I want to talk about one loss that, we of the Anglo-Saxon tradition, we are losing without actually knowing. We say we want to preserve the Anglo-Saxon tradition, and at this moment, even the government is encouraging schools in the French-speaking regions to admit students from the English-speaking regions of Cameroon. Now, what is the consequence of this? The consequence is that those people who had started off with the Anglo-Saxon system of life, it's not only education, are forced to come and live in the Francophone system of, Francophone system of education, not education at all, but life. Pardon me about that, but life. So when they stay here, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years, what do they become? They start resembling the other party that we're not really considering them as rivals, but we said their own way of life is not similar to our own way of life, and we wanted to preserve our own way of life by all possible means. So when we take our children from that other side and bring them here, they come and stay here for 5 years, they start resembling these people, and our culture, the culture that we so cherish, the Anglo-Saxon and other cultural values that we think emanate from that side, we start losing them gradually. And believe me, Mr. Bean, a lot of our children are coming here. Now, even if they go back to the Southwest and Northwest regions after the conflict, say 5 years, say 6 years, 7 years, they are never going to be the same.
They're never going to be the same. We're dancing around the circle, like he said, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. Tamfu Jones, is it time to start thinking differently so that next year we do not re-experience what we have today as far as back to school is concerned?
Yes, we would have said it is time to start thinking differently, but unfortunately, you realize that we are living in a society where we don't have the freedom to think. We don't have freedom to think.
But you are thinking. Don't you have freedom to think?
When you are thinking and you cannot manifest your thought, then you don't have the freedom to think. Because there's no need thinking when you cannot manifest the thought that you are.
Are you saying you are not thinking?
You think, and the thought are be buried in you alone, and you stay with it. If you like, you grow fat. Nobody cares, because if we had to think, I think that we would have thought of coming back to a peaceful environment which we had all enjoyed in this country before. But unfortunately, it seems as some individuals sit in their various places and don't want peace to return because of one thing or the other that they gain out of the crisis. But I pray God intervenes in this country, because only God will take us out of this trouble.
Only God will take us out of this trouble. Dr. Ningwanyam, from all the divisions in the Northwest and Southwest regions, very timid takeoff to the 2019-2020 school year. Surprisingly, the pupils and students answered very present in Cambe.
That's my place, right?
Yeah,
that's my place. The statistics from Donga Mantung need to be understood in the light of many factors.
Okay.
Don't just take it in the light of what we are seeing today. You would misinterpret what you are seeing on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to realize that Donga Mantung has always been a part on many issues. It didn't start today. You know, even when President Ahijo resigned, it was Donga Mantung that was standing out, you know, and all this while it has always been like that, you know. We've always been different, so to speak. The only part of Donga Mantung that is a little bit different is Ndu, you know, they're more like a Kumbu people, you know, Tatum, you know, so. But Nkambe is special. And is it special positively or negatively? I don't know. It depends on what you think is positive and what is negative. So you see, let's talk just about the education.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the statistics and what has been happening to the education, you know, in Donga Mantung and the other areas for the past 10 years, you realize that Donga Mantung technically has been lagging behind, has been he's been sitting on the red line, while the other divisions, you know, like Bui and so on, they've really been faring very well. And it just so happens that because the others are not going, you seem to be the first. You're not the first because you did very well. You're just the first because others moved to the background. I don't know if I'm making some sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's all that explains it. And then the next thing that you want to know is that the military base in Cambe is a powerful military base, and therefore if you wanted to do whatever, you cannot do it in Cambe. So at least the place is a small haven where you know activities can carry on unperturbed. And you will also realize that most of the children who are there, they're not just children of Kambe. Some people from Kumbu send their children to, just like you know, children from the north and south have been running to the littoral and to the center and so on. So those of them from Bue area and even Bamenda, some of them have gone to Donga Mantung, Kambe, which is relatively safe. I want to say this, yes, and then of course, let's not forget the encouraging campaigns by Dr. Callistus and Mr. Gerald They've been encouraging in their own way, plus there are other people who have been encouraging, which adds to something. But you cannot say that those children went there because of Callistus and Gerald. That would be wrong.
Okay, but we should understand that the people of Cambia should be given credit for that, because even if the minister and Ngala Gerald wanted them to do what they are doing, if they did not want to keep Cambia safe, the situation would not be what it is today.
Yeah. Well, you know what surprises me is that people from other regions are other divisions. Divisions close by, other towns close by Cambia are sending their children to Cambia to study. So this means that there is the will, to send children to study.
No, but most students, many people have sent their children to.
It is not only children from Cambia. I'm saying that. I'm talking about the immediate neighbors, neighborhoods.
Yes.
The surrounding Cambia. They are sending their children to Cambia, even from which division. It means that there is the general will for people to send their children to. People are willing to send their children to school
if they had the opportunity.
They have the opportunity. So something is wrong somewhere. I don't want to point blames, on one particular party. I'm saying that there's this general willingness to send children to school, which is undisputable. But circumstances are preventing the children or people from sending their children to school, thanks to security. Dr. Nigwayam just said that, thanks to the military presence in Cambia, which is a powerful one, Cambia is a little safe.
It's a little safe.
It's a little safe.
Yes.
So I think that if the other parts were safe as Cambia or as safe as Cambia, then schools would be going generally in the northwest and in the southwest region.
And let me just add, just 1 minute. Let me just add that when it comes also to the people of Cambia, they are not as Cambia in particular. They are not as radical in their behavior like some other. They are not as radical. They are kind of like a little bit more moderate and more laid back. It's important to add that.
Just to add to what they are saying is, I would like to bring to you people to your knowledge that when we're talking about Cambia here, we're talking about Cambia as in Cambia Center, or we're talking about Donga Mantum Division, because you realize that other parts of Donga Mantum Division, because we talk about Cambia, we consider Donga Mantum Division. We realize that other parts of Donga Mantum Division are not really being protected by the military base, as Dr. Nick said. The places are unsafe. That's why you realize that their children are being sent to the Cambia, which is the center subdivision, for education. We mean that Cambia in itself is not, we cannot completely say that it's peaceful. Because
it's not peaceful, but children are going to school.
Children are going to school. Who will ask the question that if we have to look at the percentage of children going to school in Donga Mantum?
We are not talking Donga Mantum, we are talking Cambia.
When we talk about Cambia, we talk about Donga Mantum, because somebody who comes from Misaji, when you ask them from here, that where are you from, he will tell you I'm from Cambia. Somebody who comes from Ako, he will tell you I'm from Cambia.
No, let me clarify, See, I'm not hearing about this just here. Mr. Dr. Nigwayam said this, but I'd heard earlier on through some research that in Cambia, students are it's on social media, and then I've gotten from some people who stay in Cambia that children from the neighboring villages are going to Cambia to study. And we are saying that it is because Cambia is a little more secure than those other villages.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because as we speak, Ndu is kind of like dead.
Yeah. And other small villages are kind of like dead, nobody there.
Good evening. We don't like the lockdown because we are suffering. Many stay indoors because they are afraid of Amber's brutality, like kidnapping and killing. That is Simon. To me, it's because we know, after all, the right to humanity is the highest, and if the government only knows but the right to go back to school, then they will now see for themselves. Victor wins, okay? We'll go back for school. Why? Eboa Rene. Okay, Eboa, I did not get your message clearly. Good evening, good people. After this lockdown, I will ensure to send all my children to school, no matter what. Thanks for the security provided by the government of Cameroon. I'm Celestine from Kumba. I think that, like you are saying, people generally or wanting to send their children to school, but for the security situation.
Absolutely, nobody would like the child to stay at home. I went to school to my own level. We have Dr. Ningwanyam here who has gone to school too. He would not like, and I would not like my children to, or any child to stay at home, because it is said when you refuse your neighbor's child to be educated, he will become an armed robber tomorrow and attack you. So if you think that educating your children and leaving the children of the others is doing good to yourself, you are creating problems to yourself that tomorrow you will be unable to solve them. So we cannot encourage that children stay at home. But the problem now is the conducive environment. Is the environment conducive for children to go back to school? That's the question that is seeking for many answers, and we are unable to have these answers. We have called upon the government to see how they will solve this problem and things come back to normal so that the children can go back to school without any fear. If children, people are sending their children out of the Northwest and the Southwest, and some are sending their children from other divisions to Nkambe, it means that in those divisions and in those subdivisions and in those villages, there is a problem. There's something that is not going right there. There's something wrong there. So the government should, because it's the responsibility of the government. Because John Stanford, what would I do? I have nothing to do than to come here and say what I observe and suggest proposed solutions and way out of the crisis, the war, to the government, which is all, because we're all in a dialogue. So I think that they should organize a dialogue. 2 years, 3 years is passing and nothing is changing. I think the government should organize the dialogue and let things come back to normal.
Good evening, Leo. For these people to talk about effective back to school, let them bring their own kids to the Northwest and Southwest. Then other parents will send their own kids too. And they should also stop moving in armor cars and military convoy and come to tell parents to send their kids to school so other parents will know all is safe for their children to go to school. Okay, Jonas is writing. Good evening, great minds in the studio. Education is one of the most vital, inalienable rights of children. We need to ask ourselves if they have once any of such campaigns for children to go back to school in these regions, if not of recent. However, due to the ignorance of those who would have known better, here we are. Sir, Marius is writing from Yaoundé. Tamfu, I ask you once again, who benefits from children not going to school?
Nobody benefits. Nobody benefits, because when you look critically, because some people may say that the children living Northwest and Southwest will be francophonized, that the francophone regions will benefit from that. They won't benefit, because these children living, if they come, because when you go to places like Bonabera, the Ganwich, you realize that so many of them are on the street. If they don't have anything doing, they will become so a nuisance to the society. There will be no benefit to Douala at all. So the children need to go back to school. Cameroon needs to be peaceful, so that things should move the way they used to, because I bet with you, all of us sitting here, we are all from the Northwest and Southwest region, and going back to our places is not easy. And to stay, I was one who could not stay for 2 months without going to the village, but unfortunately now I'm forced to, so I'm not enjoying it at all. We all want peace and children going back to school.
You want peace, and we also want our children to go back to school.
And to add again a bit, Leo, we must say that we don't want illiterate, but I would prefer an illiterate child than a dead intellectual.
Who wants to kill a child, Mr. Tamfu?
Missing bullets have killed people.
Good evening. Okay, good evening. I'm Ajong in Boya. Why are we trying to harvest without planting? We need to start from the roots of this problem. If not, I bet you we are just playing for schools to return effectively in Southwest and Northwest. We need to sit and talk. The government is not serious. How can you be planning on going back to school without planning on resolving the problem? Oh my God, this is Boo. I'm loving the program. Thank you from Boya. Back to school in the Northwest and Southwest regions can become a thing of the past only on the following conditions: a ceasefire in the restive Northwest, Southwest, granting of general amnesty to all Anglophone detainees, including Ayub Tabe and co., the holding of an inclusive dialogue. Mr. Ngwa is writing from Betwa. Hello, what is happening in South Africa is a clear indication of illiteracy and ignorance perpetrated by those who were deprived of education. during the apartheid era some 30 years ago. We should not always cover the bad acts of the Amber too. Cameroonians are warned. Okay. Please, does it mean that Nkambe is not in southern Cameroon? Laura, writing from Oku. Kambe is in Dunga Mantung division in the northwest region of Cameroon. We are talking about unblocking the situation. What should the government do, and what should the separatists also do?
You know, like I was talking on another television channel yesterday, I said that you know, we have two guys fighting here: the government and the Amber separatists, or call them whatever, the Anglophones. You know, and while they are fighting, the grass is suffering, which is the local population and people who have nothing to. I mean, they can't contribute in one way or the other because they are helpless, and they are being trampled upon by both sides as they fight. So if we say it's the two sides that are fighting, then we are saying that it's these two sides that must work together to bring peace to the northwest and southwest region and the country at large. So, but in all of this, the government has got 2/3 of the responsibility, and the fighters have 1/3 of the responsibility. So the government has got to take up its responsibility and do what has to be done. And again, as we said some time back, it doesn't matter what the issues are. A political problem cannot be solved through the barrel of the gun. And because it's taken a long time now, you can see that the Anglophones are being armed with more powerful guns, and that is making the situation even more volatile and more difficult. So it makes sense that we should start talking, and then talking though has never killed anybody. Even if somebody insulted you, that you have a very big head, it doesn't change you in any way. So talking doesn't kill, but the bullet kills. So let's talk, because when you talk, you can only hurt the ego a little bit, but when you go and sleep and then pray over it, you feel a lot better the next day. And if we don't talk, then something is really wrong. And we are a little bit so worried that even with the problems going for the past 3 years and going to the 4th year, the parliament is unable to talk about it. So one begins to wonder, if the parliament is so afraid to talk about it, then something must really be amiss, and I don't know what that is. But everybody should sit up and start to do the talking.
Good evening, sirs. Kabwe Town has effective school resumption. What of the other subdivisions in Dunga and Mantung? You should not see Kabwe is up. Photo Stivo, writing from Boya. Photo Stivo, my friend. It's been long. I'm glad to know that you are following us. You should be watching us from, I'm sure, Bakuri Town. Yes. Metuga is nodding the head. Metuga sends greetings. Photos to Stivo. Now, Walang.
I will just clarify shortly before coming to that point on what Mr. Tamfu said there. You know, it is true, globally, nobody is benefiting, but, you know, there are some immediate benefits that are accruing from this crisis in the northwest and southwest regions, you know, to the other regions where people are migrating. I just want to point out the clear case of Douala, where I'm living right now. You discover that there are, you know, the more the people come in, you know, the more the higher demands they have by way of purchases, you know, housing and everything. So you will discover that
the landlords in Douala
are benefiting greatly. You will discover that house rents have increased, you know, about 2 times in Douala. It means that if a house was, you know, costing about 50,000 francs per month, the rent has increased to about 100,000 francs per month. Now in Douala, schools, the school fees is not different. School fees is increasing also. So there are some immediate benefits that are accruing from this, even though, you know, it's affecting the general economy of Cameroon. But there are some people who are benefiting enormously from this. And you see, this is, when I say human capital, you know, people living from one place to another, taking all their potential to that place, to develop that place. There are many Anglophones who have come here to set up businesses. I am sure that Dr. Nick Guayam did not really plan, you know, to come to Douala now. I'm sure it's part of the crisis.
Well, also. I was forced to.
Exactly. Yeah. And now you find the St. Louis and School of Agriculture and
the health.
You know, in Douala. But that's something that was doing very fine in Bamenda. I know St. Louis personally. You understand? God, so yeah. I'm saying that some people are making immediate benefits. People of the regions, the host regions, like Littoral, center, west region of, the Bamileke people are smart. They are doing everything to receive this people in the west region because they know that they're going to benefit enormously from that. So I think we should be really clear about this thing so that people understand that. Now, going back to the question.
Before you, don't forget the other people who are making capital out of the war situation.
Exactly.
I mean, who are not
Yes.
not the local man, but
Not
some,
local man,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
The economy of war.
Yeah, the economy of war, yeah.
People are making enormous benefits from that.
Yeah.
That's immediate, but
Yeah.
it is just some people who are getting that benefit too.
Yeah,
Thanks for that addition. So I go back now to your question. Yes, is it time to dialogue? It is time to dialogue. It is never late. Every conflict, every problem that you have with your brother or sister, the problem comes to an end when you sit and dialogue, when you say things out. Like Dr. Nick said here, and Mr. Tanfor said that we should not be afraid to talk to each other. Even if somebody has a point which you consider taboo, give them the opportunity to voice it out, and at the end, compromises will be made. If somebody is asking for, let's say, 10 billion francs CFA, right, at the end, you will be surprised that if you sit and dialogue with a person, he can even take 10 million francs. That is a very great difference. Whereas when you had not given him the opportunity, you were counting only on that talk, you would like, where am I going to get 10 billion francs to give to this person? Okay, so it is time. It has never been too early. It has never been too late. If dialogue comes up now, it is going to be very, very timely because many people are still dying. People are still losing economically. People are still migrating. I know people who are living in Bonaberry at the park. I know people who pay for a seat to sit and sleep in Bonaberry. At Anglophones, I mean Anglophones extorting from Anglophones themselves. People pay to sit on a chair and sleep, spend the night. People are sick and they cannot go to the hospital. I know a father who was sick and they had to call for help. So people are suffering. The time to dialogue is now. If we allow this thing to go further, it is going to degenerate and the consequences are going to be far dire than what we already have now. Yes, it is time to dialogue.
Good evening to all. To unblock the situation is deadlock. Let the government do it fast because people are dying every day. Well, I just said so. No school in the northwest and southwest. Is that what we want? Let the government do it now. Okay. Good evening to all in the studio. If the separatists think that education is their life wire of this crisis, then they have failed big time. After the lockdown, what next? Divio is writing from Kumba. Barrister Moody, we are glad to know you are watching us from Canada. Greetings, Mr. Kum and the panelists on board. School boycott is not only means to Ambazonians' objectives. It is a boomerang on us, the Anglophones. Kudos to all in the house. Barrister, good evening and greetings to the family out there. I'm Walters from Bamenda. We're crying what's happening in South Africa, and I feared that same thing may befall us in 30 years to come. Okay. This one reads, hello to you people up. The way we are not happy about the ghost town. Abdullahi Ali writing from Kumba says, okay, they are not happy with the ghost town. Hello to Elvis from Bamenda. We need to stop the Amber Boys because most of them are thieves and they don't know the use of education. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I think, in my own opinion, that if the date for the dialogue that has become a song now is announced, the tension on the side of the Amber Boys will drop and the school takeoff will speed up as the restoration forces wait joyfully for the dialogue. Ngong Honest is writing from Kumba. Ngong, I don't know whether you are the mouthpiece of the Amber Boys. Good evening, brothers. The only campaign expected from government is to declare 3 years free education from nursery to upper seat and stop wasting taxpayers' money. Hello, dear panelists. School is good thing and education is the greatest investment ever. But insecurity looms everywhere and even the security creates havoc in their area of command. But now, the administrators are now using political money to corrupt the minds of the pupils and students. I wonder what the future holds for the youth in Cameroon. But it's never too late to dialogue and resolve the ongoing Anglophone crisis in the northwest and southwest. Tabot Machiavelli Is it time to grant general amnesty, Tamfu Jones?
Really, we in Moderna, we have asked for national pardon, that they pardon everybody, irrespective of the region, and their demands, release the prisoners, then ensure the safety and the freedom of those in the bushes after the dialogue, and then come to the dialogue table to dialogue so that the country can move forward. Because you realize that when the crisis started, the consortium was created, and the members of the consortium, when in Bamenda, they had discussions with the government. Unfortunately, we don't know what happened. At the end of the day, they were on the run. Those that were not on the run were those that were in prison. So now, even if the PM went to Bamenda the other time at the Southwest region, calling for saying that Mr. Abia is now ready for dialogue, even though we are yet to see the dialogue come to pass, because that's all our expectation. He did not ensure that these people who are in the bushes and those of those activists, Amazonian activists who are abroad, if they come to sit on the dialogue table, will they be free after the dialogue? Because you must ensure them that after the dialogue, nobody will arrest them. If you give them that assurance, I think maybe the dialogue will be genuine, because if we say that we are calling on a dialogue, and those stakeholders are not involved in this dialogue, they can call maybe Dr. Ning Wanyam because he's an English person, call any other person, a known person because an English person, that come and sit on the table, let's talk. The person will talk about the Anglophone crisis, but if those boys in the bush and their leaders are not on the table, they will remain in the bush, and they are the main problem. They will remain in the bushes, and terror will continue. And when you look critically, because when we talk about the benefits of this war, you realize that the more the war stays, the more the government delays to react, the more dangerous it becomes. You realize that the more military men are killed, because the military men who are killed by the restoration forces, some are English people, some are French people. Now, the French families who lost their family members, do you think they'll be smiling about the issue? No, they won't be smiling. They won't be happy about the issue. That means anger will be installed in them, and the anger may be manifested in the nearest future in a different form. So we should be careful to always push people to the wall. I think that time has come for this thing to be discussed in our parliament, as Dr. Ning Wanyam, who really fully said that it is quite surprising that we have crisis as what we have, and it is nothing is said about it in our parliament. Instead, the foreign parliament talk about it and even come up with resolutions, but our parliaments are there, and we have MPs in that parliament who are supposed to be coming from our regions, who are supposed to be our representatives, who are supposed to be the representatives of the people. They are English-speaking Cameroonians, but unfortunately they are not saying anything. So we don't know what's happening.
We must be free. Okay, all of these texts are military men, and we are praying. Okay, that is somebody writing from DOP. Why is it that they are fighting all the villages in the northwest and southwest except Kambe? Glory is writing from Yaoundé. All is in the hands of the government. Good evening. This is Mr. Augustine from Bomenda. Greetings to all. Love the program so much. Technicians at My Media Prime should handle the issue of the reflection on the face of the presenter. Okay, thanks. Karl Marx writing from Yaoundé. I'm sure technicians, you got that message from a viewer from Yaoundé. Good evening. It is clear that the government of Cameroon is confused because the number know what to do over the matter. Let them go and gather the men to tell them. That message is coded. Greetings, sir. No powerful nation is built by illiterates. Our children's education is important and should never be jeopardized politically. Let's revisit the root causes of the crisis. Acknowledge our wrongs, unite and build a powerful nation to benefit of all Cameroonians. Egbe Martin from Moyoka Town. Good evening. No back to school is not enough. Mr. Mayor, keep destroying my kiosk and that of others. When you insist we open, don't end there. Go to all homes and move people to come and buy. You allow us leave little kids at home whom we could have protected, or their teachers in school, and we leave them alone. As our children go uncared for because of few years, even if they are all graduates with best Njoke, writing from Bokwango. We move over to the newsroom to follow the news with Metuge Ngalame.
C'est parti avec la rentrée scolaire pour cette année. Are you looking for a good school for your children come September? All road leads to the great Nelson Mandela Bilingual Comprehensive College Bonaberry, which stands tall, with a perfect and conducive environment for studies, very qualified and experienced staff, well-equipped free library services and affordable school fees. Admission for this academic year is currently going on from Mondays to Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Get your child enrolled now, for chances are limited. Le collège Nelson Mandela est situé à Bonaberry Bipele, après la paroisse Saint-Joseph. Contact. Bravo! Vous avez gagné.
Seeking a career in agriculture? Consider St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture, where students can build their interest in various farming systems by tailoring their study of agriculture to production, processing, and marketing agribusinesses, making them job providers and not seekers. St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture offers relevant practical education developed and delivered by experts and teachers who believe in teaching by demonstration. St. Louis Complex also offers through its Higher Institute of Medical Studies professional HND in nursing, midwifery, physiotherapy, pharmacy technology, medical lab sciences, dental therapy, radiology, and ultrasonography. We are located at Bonaberry Double opposite Nestle. Contact us on 678-435-138 or 677-764-674.
Being one of more than 200 majors of HIPMAT, I am proud of my success. It all began at HIPMAT.
I am a CEO. I coach and lead a team of salespeople. I don't hesitate to tell them the vision was planted and molded by HIPMAT.
Today, I stand on a pedestal of experienced and committed lecturers. The foundation was laid by HIPMAT.
For over a decade, HIPMAT's credibility and ministerial recognition have trained more than 15,000 professionals in business management and engineering from HND to BTech, MBA, and what have you. With an outstanding partnership with the University of Bamenda for BTech and MBA programs, our undoubted commitment to your show's success is a reflection of the future you painted. The Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HIPMAT, a university for professionals.
De l'inédit au Cameroun, le tout premier collège canadien ouvre ses portes dès septembre 2019. Performance Education Center, en partenariat avec les grandes écoles canadiennes, offre aux élèves du second cycle un cadre prestigieux, calme et propice pour des études avec des enseignants chevronnés canadiens et camerounais. À Performance Education Center, obtenez le baccalauréat canadien, vous ouvrant automatiquement les portes des plus grandes universités canadiennes et du monde via les bourses d'études garanties. Performance Education Center propose également des programmes de formation bilingue de 2 ans permettant d'obtenir un permis de travail au Canada après obtention d'une attestation d'études collégiales du Québec équivalent du BTS sous l'assistance de Performance Immigration Canada. Performance Education Center est situé à Lobbossou derrière Antenne CRTV 10e avenue. Performance Education Center, visa vers le Canada et le monde.
Some civil society activists and political leaders in Cameroon, under the banner of the Organization of Citizenship Front, have condemned the bureaucratic justice system in Cameroon while extending their full support to the planned strike by the Cameroon Bar Association in the days ahead. Some African countries have cautioned their citizens in South Africa to stay off the xenophobic affected areas while condemning the barbaric act carried out by South African youths on foreigners. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Prime Newscast on My Media Prime Television. Those were the headlines, and now the news in full with Mituga Stanley La Ngalame. The Organization of Citizenship Front have condemned the arbitrary arrest of political leaders in Cameroon and firmly support the announced strike by the Cameroon Bar Association. They made a declaration today in Douala during a press conference. Faith Tatam sat through that press briefing and now tells us more.
The Organization of Citizenship Front, made up of civil society and political party leaders, frowned at the porous justice system in Cameroon put in place by the Yaoundé regime while throwing their full support behind the announced strike by the Cameroon Bar Association.
We, the citizens, political parties and civil society organizations of Cameroon, stand in solidarity with the National Bar Association and hereby pronounce our full support for their strike from September 16th to 20th, 2019.
Members of the Organization of Citizenship Front went ahead to applaud the National Bar Association for standing firm to protect their professional practices.
We recognize and applaud the critical role of the National Bar Association in ensuring the respect of the rights of accused persons to a fair trial and in guaranteeing the application of the rule of law for the benefit of all Cameroonians.
They further condemned in strong terms the arbitrary arrest of Anglophone activists as well as militants of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party.
These violations and practices are contrary to Cameroonian law and reflect the culture of intimidation, harassment, and coercion, which has completely jeopardize the judicial system.
According to the Organization of Citizenship Front, all Cameroonians should come on board to support the lawyers' strike because the proper functioning of the justice system is a guarantee to the respect of fundamental and constitutional rights of all Cameroonians.
As the population of Kumba is currently respecting the lockdown caused by the Ambazonia fighters, access to health care is becoming a problem. A man has died due to the difficulties in gaining access to the hospital. He was being transported on a truck this Wednesday, the 4th of September 2019. Tamfu Sidwan witnessed that scene in Kumba and now tells us more.
4th of August 2019, Kumba, Cameroon. This is the effect of a lockdown imposed by the Ambazonia separatist fighters. A man being transported on a truck like a bag of cocoyams to the mortuary after he gave up the ghost this morning at Mbonge Road, Kumba 1 subdivision. He was an internally displaced person from Guti living with some extended family members in Kumba. He felt sick 2 days ago, but there was no possibility to get access to the hospital due to gunshots around Mbonge Road in Kumba, coupled with heavy ghost towns respected by inhabitants of this city. The family expressed disappointment as Emmanuel was unable to get health services because there was no circulation in this city since Monday, 2nd September 2019. This is just one amongst the number of people who die and are being transported on wheelbarrows because they lack means to get to health facilities due to the lockdown imposed by separatists. A corpse of a human being transported on a truck due to lockdown is very dehumanizing, and family members are always left with the trauma of leaving their loved ones through such circumstances. As it stands, people do not go out of their homes even to seek medical services. Shops are all locked for fears of possible confrontation between the military and the Amba fighters.
Yes, that is the situation. As you saw the street, that is the situation here. It is very difficult for the population here in Meme Division. So if something is not done, then I'm afraid that even the schools may not go on smoothly, because there are already fears. People are afraid to move to walk on the street because of the lockdown Meme Division is currently facing.
Tamfu Sidwan Dimbie, and in that report from the Green City of Kumba. Winners of the 2019 Vuri Divisional Arts and Crafts Exhibition drawn from the Douala 1 Council area have presented the award to the municipal administration. The ceremony that took place today at the Douala 1 Council Chambers was chaired by Mayor Elenge Malapa, Jean-Marc Emile. Details in the following report. Out of the 56 arts and crafts exhibitors who represented the Douala 1 municipality at the 6th edition of the Vuri Arts and Crafts Exhibition, 11 came on the honor roll with their outstanding products. As a sign of gratitude to the Douala 1 municipal administration, the winners presented their certificates and a symbolic gift to the Lord Mayor Elenge Malapa Jean-Jacques Emile for his enormous support. The mayor, in return, gave each of the first 4 winners a special prize of CFA 50,000 francs and CFA 25,000 francs to the remaining 7 winners who made the municipality proud. The 11 arts and crafts winners who will represent the Douala 1 municipality at the regional exhibition promised to work harder for more awards.
Sincèrement, merci. Ça m'encourage encore à faire l'effort parce que pour le salon régional, vraiment, l'œuvre que je vais vous présenter, je ne peux pas commencer à décrire sinon, et je vous promets que ça serait plus que ça.
The upcoming regional art and crafts exhibition will bring together craftsmen and women drawn from the 4th division of the littoral region of Cameroon. Barely few months after his ordination as the pioneer priest of the St. Francis Parish in Mutengene, Reverend Father Kingsley Chinonzo Nwabweze has created 2 mission stations in Mutengene under the main parish, which has been inaugurated and already operational. This is aimed at making the gospel of Christ reachable to all Christians, regardless of their position. Our Boya-based correspondent, Ikomi Christine Wella Eposi, tells us more from Mutengene.
This is the St. Francis Parish, Mutengene, where the Reverend Father Kingsley Chinonzo Nwabweze is the parish priest. Created not long ago, the parish now has 2 mission stations aside from the main parish. One of them, St. Benedict Mission Station, was created some weeks back, and recently the St. John Bosco Catholic Mission was inaugurated in Mutengene, Tiko Subdivision, Southwest region of Cameroon. Coming up with such a brilliant initiative was the pioneer priest of the parish, who explained that with the growing nature of the St. Francis family, one central mission could no longer serve the spiritual purpose for which the parish was created, reasons why he thought it wise to create other mission stations.
One central mission will not be able to serve the spiritual purpose for which this parish is created. So I went around and discovered that there are some other members of my parish who are not going to church because the church is distant from where they are. I also noticed that there are some elderly ones who, due to the reason of the distant nature of the main mission, they always remain at home on Sundays and other holidays of obligation. So that is why I took up this initiative to start creating mission stations.
He added that such an initiative is geared toward bringing the Christians, especially those in distant areas, closer to the parish. Despite the different mission stations created, Father Chinonzo said they must all remain united and attached to the mother parish, which is the St. Francis main mission.
I have created this mission station does not mean I am dividing the one family that St. Francis has been known of. Our logo is St. Francis, one family. All right? So I am giving them this message. I gave it already during my homily, that even though we have been created as a mission station, our being independent as a mission station does not mean we are totally cut off from the main mission. We are still together. We are building together. we are going to remain united. Our primary intention is to build St. Francis Parish, not just to concentrate on St. John Bosco.
With his homily based on humility, the parish priest, Reverend Father Kingsley, told his Christians to always be humble so as to receive God's blessings. Christine Abonge is a Catholic faithful of the St. Francis Parish who had a lot to take back home after the Holy Mass to inaugurate the new St. John Bosco mission.
The main message I'm taking back home is from the readings of today and from the homily that Father preached, which is about humility. And Father said we should bring ourselves down. If we are humble, God is going to bless us. And if, like the reading said, if you are humble and take yourself low, you will be raised and given a greater position. So that is the message I am taking home.
It is worth mentioning that aside from the creation of the mission stations, the Reverend Father Kingsley Chinonso Nwabueze not long ago joined 10 couples in holy matrimony, an event which was taking place for the first time ever at the St. Francis Parish, Mutengene.
You are watching the 7:45 Primetime Newscast live on My Media Prime Television. We're broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Let's take you out of Cameroon for international news. The World Health Organization Director General Dr. Tedros has declared his willingness in supporting countries in their path towards a universal health coverage through a strategic support and technical assistance which will be unveiled come September 23, 2019 at a UN high-level meeting on universal health care. Our health reporter Bokengo Worthy tells us more in the following report.
Universal health coverage is a health scheme set in place by the World Health Organization based on their Constitution of 1948, declaring health as a fundamental human right. This scheme is described by the World Health Organization as a situation where citizens in a country can access health services without incurring financial hardship. With objectives such as equity in access to health services, improvement of quality health services, and protection against health service financial risks, the World Health Organization is committed to supporting countries on their path towards universal health coverage through strategic support and technical assistance. On September 3, 2019, the World Health Organization Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, called on world leaders to support the universal health coverage, encouraging countries to be part of the September 23rd high-level meeting on the universal health coverage at the United Nations General Assembly in New York this 2019. He stated that supporting countries to the road to universal health coverage and other health-related targets in the Sustainable Development Goals is not a job for the World Health Organization alone. According to studies, achieving universal health coverage and sustainable development goals require a shift in paradigm, placing people at the center of health services and making them a priority rather than finance.
The recent xenophobic attack on African immigrants in South Africa has received prompt reactions from the government of the attacked African states such as Zambia, Nigeria, and Ethiopia, cautioning its citizens residing in South Africa to stay clear of the affected areas. Details in the following report with Tabi Claudine.
The African continent is aggrieved by the recent happenings of what is termed as xenophobic attacks on African immigrants residing in South Africa. Foreign businesses and investment have been brought to ruin due to these recent attacks, straining relationships between the said countries. Reasons for these xenophobic attacks on immigrants are yet to be ascertained. However, a press interview of the South African Deputy Minister of the Police Department has it that 80% of South Africa population is made up of foreign immigrants, and the fear of South Africa being ruled by foreigner in the nearest future is dreaded. History holds it that in 1994, immigrants from Mozambique and the Democratic Republic of Congo were victims of xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Meanwhile, between 2000 and 2008, at least 67 people died on what was identified as xenophobia in South Africa. In May 2008, series of attacks left 62 persons dead, and in 2015, a nationwide strike in xenophobia against immigrants prompted many foreign governments to start repatriating their citizens from South Africa. These constant xenophobic attacks on African immigrants have provoked some great thinkers and human rights activists to question if this is the same South Africa which attracted the sympathy of the entire African continent and the international community as a whole, who stood firmly to denounce the brutal apartheid regime that was meted against the blacks in South Africa. As these attacks unfold, reactions from the affected African countries are yet to be made known to ensure the safety of their citizens in South Africa.
Still on the recent xenophobic attack in South Africa, some African countries have condemned the recent violent attacks of South African nationals on foreigners in their country. This act against humanity has been described as barbaric and misguided. Hence, measures need to be taken to ensure it comes to an end. Genda Peldrin Blanche tells us more in the following report.
For the past few days, rioters in Johannesburg, South Africa's commercial capital, have staged what Africans have termed one of the most violent xenophobic attacks since 2015, killing, looting shops and destroying properties, many owned by foreign nationals. Reacting to this unjust act on humanity, some African communities have already taken measures to handle such crimes accordingly. Nigerian singers and Zambia's football team are amongst those who have laid strict measures against such actions. Nigerian stars like Frederick Leonard, Yemi Eberechi-Alade, Burna Boy have outrightly condemned this act and expressed dissatisfaction. Tiwa Savage on her part cancelled her planned concert in South Africa. Nigerians have also resorted to destroying companies owned or controlled by South Africans based in Nigeria. The Football Association of Zambia has cancelled the international friendly game between Zambia and South Africa. The High Commission for the Republic of Namibia has cautioned all Namibian nationals to be vigilant and report to the Namibian High Commission in Pretoria or the Namibian Consulate in Cape Town. Though some South African officials have blamed criminality instead of xenophobia, the Nigerian government has summoned the South Africa's High Commissioner, alleging Nigerian-owned businesses have been targeted. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has condemned the attacks, saying there can be no justification for any South African to attack people from other countries. Report says some African countries have withdrawn from the World Economic Forum on Africa now underway in Cape Town. But the Department of International Relations and Cooperation on Tuesday denied reports on this claim, stating xenophobia is not a reason why they backed out. South Africa's Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, told the media that the rioters fear losing their jobs to foreigners. That's one reason why the violence escalated. Situations have gone violent in many African countries to reciprocate the violence from South Africans in South Africa, a condition many think is a disgrace to the African society.
And in sports, the finals of the 11th and 8th editions of the Limbe City Council Interquarter Football Competition was played over the weekend under the watchful eyes of the Governor of the Southwest Region, Bernard Okalia-Bilai. The cup donor, Mutanga Andrew Monjimba, seized the occasion to call on students and people to go back to school. More on this story with our Limbe-based correspondent, Kuma Honore Mbom.
Southeast Community Football Team are the winners of this year's Limbe City Interquarter competition after beating the boys of Motowo FC by 1-0 in a thrilling football encounter that took place at the Limbe Centenary Stadium over the weekend. The finals started at 2 p.m. with the female teams pitching MM Bella Queen FC of Mbimbia and Options for Home FC to end on a 1-0 victory in favor of the girls of Options for Home. Closing the 11th and 8th edition of the male and the female categories respectively, the government delegate to the Limbe City Council, Mutanga Andrew Monjimba, said the tournament has stamped its mark and is today one of the indelible legacy of the Limbe City Council. He expressed satisfaction to the organizing committee for keeping the flames of the tournament burning all these years. Mutanga Andrew Monjimba used the opportunity to remind parents, pupils, teachers and students to return to school as the reopening date of the new school year is around the corner. On his part, the chairman of the organizing committee, Ngoyo Leon, thanked the various teams that took part in the competition as they exhibited a spirit of maturity all through the tournament.
To thank everybody. I want to thank the Almighty God. I want to thank the government delegate, the governor who came to preside himself. I want to thank the media who covered this event entirely from day one to the last day, which is today.
Both final matches took place under the watchful presence of the governor of the Southwest region, Bernard Okalia Bilai, alongside the senior divisional officer for FACO, amongst other local and political authorities.
Stadium, you can just see the attendance, and the attendance here can give you part of the picture of what is going to all the entire region. The attendance is good. We are prepared for the back to school. Many stakeholders join us.
Southeast Community FC went home with a cash prize of 1 million francs CFA, 22 medals and a trophy, while Motowar FC received a sum of 750,000 francs CFA, 22 medals and a trophy. Kia Village FC equally grabbed the sum of 500,000 francs CFA for the third prize. The same amount was disbursed to the winners of the female category with options for homes, carrying home the sum of 1 million francs CFA and a trophy for the first prize. Other prizes included the best player of the tournament, the highest goal scorer, and consolatory prizes.
It is on the sport news that we end tonight's newscast. But before we take leave of you, a reminder of our top stories. Some civil society activists and political leaders in Cameroon, under the banner of the Organization of Citizenship Front, have condemned the bureaucratic justice system in Cameroon while extending their support to the planned strikes by the Cameroon Bar Association in the days ahead. Some African countries have cautioned their citizens in South Africa to stay off the xenophobic affected areas while condemning the barbaric act carried out by South African youths on foreigners. The news was compiled and produced by Faith Tatam and Ewane Nulinga Eli. I am Mituga Stanley, La Ngalame for presentation. Prime Aaron continues up next with Kum Leonard and his panelist. Good night.
Being one of more than 200 majors of HIPMAT, I am proud of my success. It all began at HIPMAT.
I am a CEO. I coach and lead a team of salespeople. I don't hesitate to tell them the vision was planted and molded by HIPMAT.
Today, I stand on a pedestal of experienced and committed lecturers. The foundation was laid by HIPMAT.
For over a decade, HIPMAT's credibility and ministerial recognition have trained more than 15,000 professionals in business management and engineering from HND to BTech, MBA and what have you. With an outstanding partnership with the University of Bamenda for BTech and MBA programs, our undoubted commitment to your show's success is a reflection of the future you painted. The Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HIPMAT, a university for professionals.
Seeking a career in agriculture? Consider St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture, where students can build their interest in various farming systems by tailoring their study of agriculture to production, processing, and marketing agribusinesses, making them job providers and not seekers. St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture offers relevant practical education developed and delivered by experts and teachers who believe in teaching by demonstration. St. Louis Complex also offers through its Higher Institute of Medical Studies professional HND in nursing, midwifery, physiotherapy, pharmacy technology, medical lab sciences, dental therapy, radiology, and ultrasonography. We are located at Bonaberin Double opposite Nestle. Contact us on 678-435-138 or 677-764-674.
De l'inédit au Cameroun, le tout premier collège canadien ouvre ses portes dès septembre 2019. Performance Education Center, en partenariat avec les grandes écoles canadiennes, offre aux élèves du second cycle un cadre prestigieux, calme et propice pour des études avec des enseignants chevronnés canadiens et camerounais. À Performance Education Center, obtenez le baccalauréat canadien, vous ouvrant automatiquement les portes des plus grandes universités canadiennes et du monde via les bourses d'études garanties. Performance Education Center propose également des programmes de formation bilingue de 2 ans permettant d'obtenir un permis de travail au Canada après obtention d'une attestation d'études collégiales du Québec équivalent du BTS sous l'assistance de Performance Immigration Canada. Performance Education Center est situé à Locbessou derrière Antenne CRTV 10e avenue. Performance Education Center, visa vers le Canada et le monde.
Wow! C'est parti! Avec la rentrée scolaire pour cette année! Are you looking for a good school for your children come September? All road leads to the great Nelson Mandela Bilingual Comprehensive College Bonaberry, which stands tall, with a perfect and conducive environment for studies, very qualified and experienced staff, work-equipped free library services and affordable school fees. Admission for this academic year is currently going on from Mondays to Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Get your child enrolled now, for chances are limited. Le collège Nelson Mandela est situé à Bonaberry Bipele, après la paroisse Saint-Joseph. Contact. Bravo! Vous avez gagné.
La musique comme jamais sur votre télévision. My Music TV, votre chaîne musicale du groupe DT Media. C'est une sélection de qualité des musiques du Cameroun et de l'Afrique. Interviews, shoutouts, émissions télé. My Music TV, c'est la couverture et la production de vos concerts musicaux en direct sur nos antennes et enregistrés. My Music TV est sur le satellite ABS3 et vu dans plus de 54 pays et sur les réseaux sociaux. My Music TV, feel the rhythm.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime Hour on My Media Prime. On this second segment of the program, we are going to be looking at the xenophobic attack on immigrant Africans in South Africa, questioning what South Africans are up to, because this is not the first time that Africans have been attacked by their brothers and sisters in South Africa. We ask the question, what is wrong and what should be done to stop further attacks in the future? Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, how do we explain what is happening down in South Africa?
What is happening in South Africa is understandable if first you understand human nature and you understand the animal in us. Okay. And you know, I have a scientific mind, so let me just paint a little picture for you. Mm-hmm. If we go out there on the street and take 10 street children and take them to a good restaurant and give them some rice, some chicken, and something to drink, and so that everybody has enough to eat, they will eat and they'll be satisfied. Then we can take another group, let's say, of 10 children and put them over there, and instead of giving them 10 plates and a drink each, we give, let's say, just about 4 plates of rice and just a little drink to share. What you're going to observe in this second group is that sooner or later a fight is going to break out. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly what is happening. Even when if you come back, take any country, in as much as we throw banana peelings at South Africa, let's take any country for that matter, even Cameroon. If you don't take care of your youths in such a way that you bring them up to be able to provide for themselves their basic needs, if you don't do that so that, 7 days on 7, 24 hours on 24 hours, they can meet up with their needs for food, for security, for housing, all those things, those what do you call them? Those basic needs by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You remember? Yeah. So everybody must have all those things laid out. If people don't have those things, they're going to fight. Which means that even if we took presidents, let's take 56 African presidents and just put them on their own, their presidents. We don't give them any cooks, no nothing, and just give them just very little food. After some time, some are going to eat some. That's just a basic human thing. And therefore, when we have understood that, then we begin to look behind the curtain and ask the right question, what actually went wrong? Number one, we have all agreed on this panel that they missed out on their education. And since Cameroon is also going through that kind of a phase, we don't want to be faced with that kind of a situation in the next 25, 30 years. So it's a warning to all of us that we need to go to school and train our children not just to read and write, but to give them the capacities to become productive and to earn their own livings and to be able to build their own house, get married, and found their own families. It's very important that we do this. And when you neglect the youths today, whether they be your children or not, you are setting yourself up for problems tomorrow. It's very important. If today you're supporting that people should not go to school for one reason or the other, you are setting a trap for yourself. So we are collectively saying that we should do all in our power, be us AMBA or the government, so that children go back to school, so we are not faced with this South African situation. It's a manifestation of a lack of education and the lack of capacity to generate enough wealth and opportunities for everybody. So the little that is there has been stolen, of course, is always stolen by those that are powerful, and then the poor masses begin to fight over crumbs and so on. And as they are fighting over crumbs, they attack other people, thinking that it is those people that are responsible for their
predicaments.
Yeah, predicaments. That's the word. Thank you very much, brother. And therefore, we begin to look for scapegoats, which means that even at this material moment, if all those foreigners in South Africa were to leave, this fight will not stop. They will only take another color. The South Africans, the black South Africans who are poor, will attack the black South Africans who are rich. That's how it's going to go. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, they will also, when they are finished with those, they will attack the whites, attack the Indians and everybody. So everybody is laid up for attack, and the only way to solve the problem is to make sure that the rich and the powerful make sure that the children of the poor are also looked after. That is the only way. And the way, when I say looked after, doesn't mean you should go sharing bags, rice, and mattresses to them. Take them to school and give them the very opportunities. Don't do like the system here where it's only children of the big who can go to ENAM. No, everybody's child should be able to go to those schools and so on, and there will be peace.
And there will be peace. Walang Abang, is it an issue of education?
Certainly, it is an issue of education. You know, during the period of apartheid, so many black South Africans did not go to school. And it is also known that Johannesburg is somewhat the crime capital in the world. There's a lot of, the rate of crime in Johannesburg is very high. And it is simply because many of those committing the crimes are mostly black people in Johannesburg and South Africa. It is because many of them did not go to school. I like the picture that Dr. Nick Gwayam has painted, you know, from the natural perspective. Permit me go into the political perspective, you know, of this xenophobia in South Africa, which is also very highly related to the analysis that Dr. Nick Gwayam has given. You know, when Nelson Mandela came to power, the South Africans thought that, you know, by miracle, they were going to control, you know, the economy of South Africa, which wasn't the case. You know, they thought that many South African blacks were going to have the opportunities, job opportunities that whites in the past had monopolized. That was not the case. You know, they thought that there was going to be opportunity for everybody. That was not the case, unfortunately. So what was the resultant effect of all of this? The black South Africans were disgruntled, and they are still disgruntled till today. And subsequent leaderships have promised them, you know, a way out of this, and they have not been able to live up to their expectations, or they have not been able to walk their talk. So there is this loss of trust at the level of South Africa, especially amongst the black community in South Africa. And Cyril Ramaphosa, the current president, didn't do anything better for the people. And what is the consequence of this? It is that the political class, due to the fact that they could not meet up with their promises that they have made to these young people in South Africa, you know, creation of job opportunities and other opportunities for them, because they have not been able to meet up with these promises, they have sold the black foreigners, or the black immigrants in South Africa. They have sold them to, politically, they have sold them to this disgruntled class of South Africans who are uneducated, who do not have jobs, you know, and who cannot provide for their basic needs. They have sold the black immigrants to these people. And they have painted a picture to them saying that is your problem. Those are the people who have come and stolen the opportunities that you should have had in South Africa, and which is a lie. And do not blame those young guys because they cannot interpret things so succinctly. Because many of those black people, foreigners, who are living in South Africa, they are doing business. They're doing business. They have shops, they have other forms of businesses that they are living on. But they have bought into this idea that the foreigners, the black foreigners, are the people who have stolen their opportunities, and, you know, they have been turned against the black foreigners. And that is what is causing the problem in South Africa. Okay. It is also a political problem.
Yeah, Tamfu, you have been following developments out there in South Africa. Your take on the reaction of African head of states to what is happening in South Africa?
I think the few that have reacted so far, it's good already. More should react so, because it's very unhuman to see an African burn another African, set another African on fire, and we see the picture of a police officer who's supposed to be ensuring law and order stands and he's smiling at it. I see some sort of a government conspiracy against immigrants. We cannot be fighting and crying out loud to the world that the white man is against African immigrants, and in Africa we live the same scenario. When you look critically, you realize that some African leaders will not comment on it, will not react to this vis-a-vis these xenophobic actions, because they are also guilty of xenophobic action. Because you look critically, you realize that the African countries who feel themselves economically better than others have carried out such actions before.
We've seen people suffer in Equatorial Guinea.
In Equatorial Guinea, in Angola.
In Angola, yes. In Libya. Yeah?
So those are the type of actually things we have lived before, even though some did not reach to this extent, but it is there. So most African leaders have it in mind that they are better economically than the other African countries. And when these other African nationals go to these countries and live there, and all the population of those countries think is that the people will soon dominate over them. And it's the fear of domination that creates all this frustration that you see that they pick up arms and start burning their brothers, their black brothers. It is really terrible. I think sanctions should be against South Africa.
Okay, let the government. I'm Walters from Bamenda. We're crying what's happening in South Africa, and I fear the same may befall us in Cameroon in 30 years to come. Let the government free everybody involved in the crisis and call for the long-awaited dialogue. Okay, Walters, thank you. Good evening, once more, Leo. Before now, there has never been anything in this country as back-to-school campaign. And if it's been done now, that means there is a problem, and it's the lack of the zeal to look at the problem that keeps putting this country in the chaotic situation it finds itself today. These people think running away from the truth will stop the truth from prevailing. Metro Idris is writing from the Green City, Kumba. Good evening to all in the studio. Since Monday, there have been serious gunshots in the whole of Bamenda. Just imagine that children and students were in schools. Education cannot go with gunshots. Paul is writing from Bamenda. This one says, hello to you also. Let the government try to gain the interest of the people of the Northwest and Southwest region. Good evening. The government should stop chasing shadows and face the objects. Dialogue is the only way out for schools to resume in the Northwest and Southwest. Hamisu is writing from Garua. Hi, schools is a good thing. Learning is a good thing. Tell the president not to send armies outside. They should stay and solve our problem first. D4, writing from Kumba. I want to say here that all the bad things going on is encouraged by some people. High crime wave due to this crisis. Extortion. Can you remember the situation over where a little boy kidnapped his younger brother and mistakenly drowned him in the well just because he wanted ransom from his family? You can think of more of such events and are still going on. Schools can't just magically continue without an amicable dialogue between the two parties. It's most important than any other measures taken by so-called government to adopt and let peace reign. Government is not serious. You see the happenings in South Africa. It's really a shameful thing the government is foolishly practicing. Hello, Prime R. It's better to be educated, to be uneducated and alive than educated and dead. Dialogue and justice is a key to end this crisis. Agap's Gentle, writing from Bomenda. Good evening, panelists. Let's be sensible and objective. How can guns impart knowledge into pupils and students? Funny though, we need enabling spheres. Okay. So your response to this matter is tantamount to separation. Why can you not call on the fighters to drop down their guns for the sake of schools? Some of you who come to this media house influence the matter. If the ministers do not bring their children to this side of the country, should school go on? I want some of you to know that the Lord has said that a child cannot ask for bread and the father gives him stone. So let us call on the fighters to give peace a chance and tell the government that next time, if nothing is done, we shall be violent than ever. Thanks. Martin from K-Town. Okay, Martin, thank you. Good evening in the studio. I'm Kylians from Bamenda. I think school in the Northwest and Southwest are not going because there is a problem big enough to disrupt school. Please, no school till that atmosphere is conducive. We don't want to be bribed to go to school, but we love school and like to go freely. Thanks. Okay. Please, when you write, give us your name and where you're writing from. Hello, from Simon in Kumba. Amber should know that people stay indoor not because they are supporting them, but because they are afraid of their brutality and inhuman treatment. Amber should know that Limbe, Tiko, and Kambe have vomited them. That is why they don't respect their useless lockdown. What makes some of us students to wonder is, since this political instability started and led to school halt in the Northwest and Southwest, the head of state has never ever gone on TV or talked to the media to address this issue or even to encourage our students of these regions. He should know we all want to go to school, but it's not all about the call to back to school by ministers or associates. They know the situation on the ground, which makes it very difficult to go to school. He knows what to do. Once he does that, we shall be rushing to school without any call back to school. It's Leslie writing from Bamenda. Amber fighters, half of you are educated. We beg October is around the corner. Temper justice with mercy. Or if you guys continue, we will miss both September and October. Mary, okay. Mary is writing from Mutengene. Hello, evening to you people in the studio. I love your program. We need peace so as to go back to school. Government should call for dialogue so the peace can reign. by Asungui, writing from Bamenda, Mile 5 in Kwen. Let's continue with our discussions. I will read the messages. Retaliation from Nigerians. You've seen the pictures. Is that the best move?
Yes, I saw some pictures on social media where South African businesses in Nigeria
have been targeted,
especially the MTN businesses. Their towers and so on have been set on fire. Well, one can understand the anger, because but tit for tat is not the way forward. And all we can say is that the South Africans are not behaving in a mature way. I mean, we can say that. And taking the lives of others just because you cannot manage your own youth is the wrong way out. And I'll be calling on the government of South Africa to look at the kind of education they are giving their youths. Give them technical education, give them professional education, teach them agriculture, mechanize agriculture, give them all these things and give them the tools to work your economy out, to work things for themselves. Don't let them roaming the streets and running and smoking marijuana all over the whole place. I understand Johannesburg is a crime-ridden area and so on. Do something about it. Take care of your youths. If you don't take care of your youths, and you're a president or a minister in your big house, those youths on the street, they're going to come for you one of these days.
They're going to come for you one of these days. Walang Abang, this is not the first time something like this is happening. Do you think the South African government has been pampering this activity or those involved in it?
Yes, I think that, the South African government is an accomplice to what has been happening. And, I said that they have given on a silver platter, the black foreigners in South Africa to these uneducated youths who roam the street, committing crimes. They've given them on a silver platter and say, and ask them to do whatever they think is good for them. Yes, and what's the resulting consequence? It is that it's already creating tension between many African countries and South Africa. I remember that, many African leaders have condemned in very strong terms this barbaric act. And there is, the newly elected president of Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, and I'm sure Paul Kagame and another leader who have refused to attend a summit somewhere in South Africa because, as a protest to this barbaric act. So it's already causing a lot of tension between South Africa and some nations. And it is because these nations, these African nations, have already recognized the implication of the political power in South Africa in this barbaric act. So it is something that we need to decry very seriously. It is, a very big problem, a very big barrier to the so much cherished Pan-Africanism that is preached today by many countries and many pundits of Pan-Africanism in Africa. I think that it is going to serve as a dividing factor. It's going to divide African countries again so much because South Africa, today may be up, but a country like Nigeria is coming up very powerfully. It is the first economy in the world, even though there are Nigerians
in Africa.
Yes, as the first. Please pardon me for that. It is the first economy in the world, and other countries are coming up also very powerfully.
First economy in Africa.
Sorry about that. First economy in Africa. I think I finally got it. So I think that it is a straining relationship between South Africa and other African countries, and South Africa cannot be a monopoly of development. So soon, many countries like Ethiopia, Rwanda, and other countries, Tanzania is coming up so very powerfully. They will also provide other opportunities in Africa. So South Africa should not be, proud of being a powerful economy, where other other African nationals go there to fetch for their daily bread. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. If the government wants schools to resume, they should release the Southern Cameroon leaders and they should build all the schools and the villages that have been burnt. The last is call for dialogue, then schools will resume in these two regions. Hello, Mr. Leonard, good evening. I love the program. To those campaigning for resumption, they ask themselves what happened in 2016 before schools were stopped, and then Has it been solved before they are campaigning for schools? We should better solve the problem, because if the problem is being solved, schools will resume without campaign. I am a student, but now I prefer to be a life illiterate than death literate. So we need peace before going to school. By Grand René in Belo, Boyo Division. It's better to keep a dull child at home rather than keep a clever child in the mortuary. By Ngwa Raphael, writing from Bamenda. Good evening, guys. If you talk about massive back to school in Cambe, you should look at the geological aspect of Cambe. If you can understand, those boys mostly work in the forest, so Cambe is not surrounded by this forest, where these boys can come and out, attack and go back. If you look the situation in Boya, the Mile 16 and Muya are disturbed and not Boya town, so you can understand what I mean. It's Eugene from Yaoundé. Keep up with the program. Thank you. How can I go to school when places are hot? We are ready to go back to school if the problem is resolved. Derek Ote, writing from Bamenda. Greetings. Good evening to you all. Good evening to you too. Ote, hello, good evening to you guys in the room. I am Eskeli from Ekona. How can we go to school when our house has been burnt down? No farming activities that we could do to carry out to pay our school fees. The government forces shoot at people every day in Ekona. How do we go to school? How can I go to school? I'm a student and I love going to school. Where do I get money to travel to Douala to rent a house and also pay school fees? The UA and Cameroon government has failed me as a student. Thank you. How do we understand that Africa stood for South Africa? Today, the same Africa is being formatted by South Africans.
We realize that is another form of immaturity being manifested by Africans, because when you look critically, you realize that what South Africa is doing today could be done by another African country. We continue showing this immaturity to the international community, unable to solve our own problems by ourselves. We create problems and open our eyes expecting that other people should come and solve our problems. I think if Africa continues like this, we will end up being recolonized by other continents, because it's really disheartening to see that Africa is still behaving this way today. Now, you see, during the apartheid war, you realize that Nigeria, in particular, helped the South African black community to fight apartheid in her own way. But unfortunately today, those black people don't think about it. They fight their own black brothers, forgetting that tomorrow another type of apartheid may resurface and they will need the help of other Africans. And the African that Nelson Mandela fought for, bargained for, is not what is being seen today. The Africa that Muammar Gaddafi dreamt of, Kwame Nkrumah dreamt of, is not what is seen today. Because at the end of the day, you will realize that all this is coming out as a result of disunity. Africans don't love Africans. Africans have that tendency of always hating somebody who is progressing. If you are progressing in business, your brother tends to hate you because you are above him. But by the time you both are at the same level, there's no problem. But you go a little bit above him, frustration comes in and he starts fighting you. That is exactly what is being manifested in South Africa today. So what I will say is that Africans, time has come for us to come together as one person, because we are still hoping for a United States of Africa. And that's not how we are going to achieve it, by fighting each other. Because we cannot be in Africa and consider other Africans as foreigners. Most of the time I will say I love Nigeria because as you go to Nigeria and you have black skin, they consider you their brother. As you have already crossed the borders and you enter Nigeria, nobody asks you anything. It's a free land, you live freely, but unfortunately you go to South Africa, you're considered a foreigner, you're considered an enemy. I think that has to stop. And the South African government, when it first started, they paid a deaf ear and behave as if nothing had happened. And now it is repeating itself. I think that they should stand up. If not, we will be tempted to think that they are accomplices to these actions by some young South Africans.
By some young South Africans. Good evening. Education is the key of success, so I think the government should call for dialogue so that things can turn to normal. Mitiran in the southwest region. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I love your program very much. So far in Cameroon, there is no government. Reason saying so is because the government of Cameroon is careless and selfish. Cedric Wando writing from Bamenda. This one says, good evening to everyone in the studio. The government back school campaign is not genuine. The government is not doing this because they have the children or the people at heart. They are doing this to obscure the terrible situation from the international community and claim normalcy. Let the government do the right thing by calling for a genuine dialogue to end the crisis. Garbage in, garbage out. Bide Nelson, writing from Boya. Hi, good evening to you all. Yes, there is need for dialogue now and within this year. What about this? The burnt schools, homes, farms. Mr. Nek, writing from Kumba. Hey, everyone, let's sell this country and share the money so everyone can relocate in other countries. Charles, His Lordship, writing from Andop. Hello, good evening to all of you in the studio. Please let us be clear here. The more the government delaying in solving this problem, the more things are going out of hands. Because what I saw today in the hands of those boys and the Anglophones who are in government are using it for their personal benefits, which means they are not working for the benefits of the Anglophone people. Sorry, the worst is still to come, because I saw the boys calling on the military to meet them, and the military refuses to meet them physically at Bengui Road. Elvis is writing from Bamenda. We cannot authenticate this information from our viewer from Bamenda. Now, when we look at what is happening in South Africa, we've seen similar instances in Equatorial Guinea. We've seen Cameroonians suffer the same fate in Gabon. Is there need for countries to institute clear policies that outrightly punishes any citizen caught in such acts?
Evil is evil and should be punished. And what is right should be done at all times. And you are not, you are not supposed to twist it because you are dealing with someone from another country, someone with another race, or someone with another color, or someone of another religion. That has no place. A human being is a human being, and you should make sure that the laws in any country, protect all the people in that country, be they the citizens of that country or guests or visitors, coming in. Everybody is protected by the law, and that's the way it should be. Human rights should be respected, and no one has the right, for whatever reason, to break that. That said, we go back again to try to understand what is going down there in South Africa, and to continue to insist that it's a phenomenon. There's this thing we talk of with principles. Principles are natural laws. If you just let's take our Etudi Palace, right? The presidential palace in Etudi. If we just abandon it and did nothing to it and come back after 5 years, we'll be in a bush, and it will break down. That means things have a tendency to decay. All right.
When they're abandoned.
When they're abandoned, and you need to actually be intentional about whatever you are doing and build it up, which means that we have to build up our systems. We have to build up our youths. We have to build up everything. Well, the South Africa of yesterday is not the South Africa of today because generations have changed. And then the problems have changed. Those other young South Africans that are running on the streets now, they hear about apartheid just like you and I. It's a story. But the Mandelas are the ones who did the thing and lived it and so on. So they have a different understanding. But as you go from Mandela and change to Thabo Mbeki and this other president who just left, Jacob Zuma. You see, when we're already going to Jacob Zuma, sorry to say it on television, you started to see some signs of irresponsibility. You understand what I'm saying? And then, you know, and before this, I think this other president, that's current president, I watched a video of his during one of those presidential campaigns, and he was actually telling his South African brothers to attack foreigners. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm making a mistake, forgive me. But go check your videos. I think it might be on YouTube even, where you are not saying very nice things about foreigners, and you are saying we'll go out there and grab those things. Now let me say something to you South Africans. I hope you're watching us. Let me paint the picture to you, because I just said a moment ago that everything works on principles. If we go to South Africa and take all that population that is there, we can divide in about 3 groups. You have the top tier, which is made of all those people who went to school, might be the whites, the Indians, and so on, who control the economy and know how things work. And you know, if you have read Parota's rule, there are amongst the 20% who have all 80% of the money and the wealth of South Africa. Now, then there is the middle class there, which is fluctuating. Then you have this bottom line made of 80% of the population. And the total capacity to generate wealth in this 80% of the people is less than 20%. And so you have this mass of people who don't know how things work. And there are many kinds of wars. You know, as of now, you're going around with fire and Kalashnikov and all these kind of things. But there is another war that is going on in South Africa that you are not aware of. It's the economic war. It's going on in my country, Cameroon. It's going on in every other country. You have economic wars between the Americans and the Chinese. And that war is fought here. It's an intellectual war. It's a technological war. You have to know how to make money, which is what you South Africans don't know how to do. So what you really want to learn is get the capacities on get to know how things work and generate money for yourself. And that's, let me say it, let's just for one moment imagine that all the whites, all the Indians, and all the other people who are holding your economy were to leave and give you all those houses and the airplanes and anything. You will still fight. After 2 years, everything will decay because you lack capacity, and that's the problem. And the president of South Africa should correct that. Sit up and do your dirty homework.
Wow, that was a tough one there from Dr. Nick. The government should enable peace, and the Northwest and Southwest should think about their children's future and stop killing one another. Hansen is writing from Yaoundé. Greetings, Prime. I'm not sure that our government wants to dialogue because the reinforcement of troops is done on a daily basis. More grease to your elbows. Marje E. Hello, dear panelists. It's Julius from Bamenda. The president does not want to remedy this Anglophone problem because to him, Cameroon is not bilingual. Cameroon is a French nation by the president, and as such, any name Anglophone should be cleared of, okay? Children now go to school, but in the Francophone area. I fear Cameroon of the near future will be purely French-speaking. Toko, writing from Kumba. Greetings to you in the studio. Does it mean those in power government are too blind to see or deaf to hear or feel what people go through? It's painful, but they think it will end there. God will save his people. Evaristus, writing from Bomenda. Let me take some messages on WhatsApp. The backbone of xenophobia in South Africa is illiteracy, and if we don't handle things fast, xenophobic attacks will come to our doors between Anglophones and Francophones in this country. Hamisu is writing from Garua. Okay. He says, Hamisu says, I salute from France. That man, he owned on too much. Je suis au Royaume-Uni depuis 10 ans. Je suis un citoyen du Nigeria. Je reçois un sac du Cameroun. Vous devriez donc choisir le pays et partager l'argent afin que mon fils puisse me payer. Wow. I don't get, your point. Hello, good evening to you all. Government is to dialogue with who? Where is Ambazonia? They say charity begins at home. We are supporting what is happening in Cameroon, but begging on South Africa to solve its problem. Ayuk is writing from Kumba. Good evening. Is Sanjong from Boya? Why is this lockdown and ghost town so particular in Kumba? Because towns like Tiko, Limbe, Mutengene, and Boya are somehow busy. Added to that, the government should stop hypocrisy and corruption and bring a lasting solution to this crisis. Oh, shoot. Everyone die in the northwest and southwest before something will be done. God is watching, because when he will rise, there will be no scapegoats. May God help us all, the innocents. Okay. Good evening. Before any school starts, let the president withdraw the army, or we should sell the country and share the money, by Lord Williams. Lord Williams is writing from the United States of America. Okay. This one says, hello, I'm from the United States of America. I've lost my brothers in Cameroon. Okay. Say I will soon report this matter to Donald Trump. Good evening. The South Africans are simply telling others to go home and solve their problems rather than running to foreign countries which people swear to build up. How can people who spend all the time in bars and get up in the morning blaming the government for their frustration? Keep up with the program. Greetings to my brother, Mr. Wallang. Mr. Damu writing from Yaoundé. Okay. Lum writing from Bomenda. That's the bitter truth, Dr. Ngwanyam. Let the South African government sit up and address their dirty attitudes. Envy and laziness is killing the minds of South Africans. Muma John from Bomenda. Wallang, this issue of South Africa, do you think the nation should sit up and fix their respective issues so that their young people can stay back home and not rush to other countries to be treated the way it's done in South Africa, in Gabon, in Equatorial Guinea?
Well, I think that migration is a very natural tendency in the human life. People always find better opportunities elsewhere. You know, the nature of man warrants that people think out of the box. And when you're already thinking out of the box, you know, the society, the little place you are, is called a comfort zone. You think beyond your comfort zone. And your comfort zone may also, you know, get you thinking out of your country.
The people are rushing to South Africa thinking people, that's their comfort zone.
People, they are thinking, perhaps they are thinking that the immediate environment in which they find themselves does not give them, you know, the resources that they need to thrive in life. And they think that this can be found in South Africa. I'm sorry, you know, your question is very, very technical, and it is very important that we highlight this fact. Everybody can make it where they are, I mean, in the country where they are, and then, you know, expand from there and go further. But we have been taught in Africa, and sadly, even the national television has been seen advertising opportunities to go abroad. You know, we've been taught, you know.
Let's take a case. You say you want us to be practical. Please stop calling. We cannot take a call. You want us to be very practical. Take the case of Gabonese. You hardly find them around. You take the case of Equatorial Guineans or Libyans and all those well-to-do country Moroccans. If you say Moroccan here is coming for good business, not coming for adventure, which means that the economy is true.
No, those are some few exceptions. You know, I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty, you know, of everything that happens in Gabon, but I'm saying that many Africans have been taught to believe that that the resources that they need is abroad, that they do not have it at home, you know, and that is why there is this, you know, mass exodus. It is not a bad thing to go abroad. If you're going abroad to study and acquire knowledge, like Dr. Nigoyam says, it's a nice thing, which you can come and use, you know, to solve problems, to be of use to yourself and to your community. I think the problem is not going abroad. The problem is this, that people see opportunities anywhere beyond their own boundaries, which is a natural tendency.
Now, let's assume that Cameroon was doing exceptionally well. Mr. Tamfu, are we saying that many Cameroonians will be stranded along the Mexican border, where we hear thousands of them are today looking for ways to enter America?
Yeah, absolutely, because people travel for different reasons. Because it would be crazy to hear that somebody travels to Brazil because he believes Brazil girls are very beautiful and he wants to go and have a taste. It sounds crazy, but I must tell you that those are some of the reasons why people travel. Some travel because they feel that when they are that way, they will look, their skins will be fresh and they will snap pictures and send here. If you go to some of the minds of the youth who are traveling, you will understand that it's not all about looking for greener pastures. Because if it was all about looking for greener pastures, if you cannot make it in your own country, it will be very difficult for you to make it out there. Because out there, it's not the bed of roses. It is difficult there, and people who make it there are people who hustle. They don't even sleep. That's why we see some of the people who travel, they will go there and stay for 20 years, but are unable to come out with a pin, to come back with a pin. They're even ashamed to come back home because they know that they have nothing to offer. So people who are traveling, we cannot blame the economy of their country, because you are blaming the economy. It's also true that some travel due to the frustration they face in their countries, because when the country is unable to give life to its population, it forces them to travel. Because you realize that when you sit in a country like ours, at times you are tempted to pick up your bag, your little bag, put your dresses there and start moving on foot without any destination, because the things are really terrible. They say that we should encourage entrepreneurship. Before you start a little business, taxes fall on your head. Everybody comes to do what he or she likes in his own small corner, and nobody cares about you.
Okay. So is it time for African governments to fix the economies?
Yes. Let us say a couple of things again. Amongst all the continents in the world, Africa is the richest in terms of land, and in terms of minerals, and in terms of vegetation and whatever. Africa is the richest. You know, fresh water, good climate. But unfortunately, the person that God put on that land is not using his head. That's the biggest problem. And we have been taught to hate our dark color. We've been told that we are inferior beings, and we've believed it, and we act it out. And then we have the misfortune that those colonial powers, the kind of education they put us through or introduce us to is not helping, in the sense that you are just, they just created some kind of schools for you and then threw you in there, and basically you are taught to read and write. And even today you go right through the universities, you are taught to read and write, but you have not developed critical thinking skills, and you have not learned how to understand how things work, let alone knowing how to make things work. So there's a lot that we have to catch up on to make the best use of the opportunities that God has given us. If Africa were such a useless place, you would not have Chinese and Lebanese and Americans and the French and all this trying to come in. Because of their capacity, they are able to see something that you and I can see. And that's where the problem is. We have a lot of good land. We can't even grow rice for ourselves. We have to eat Chinese rice. Some of it, I understand, is plastic. And yet we have the land, we have the rain, and they come and buy this land from us cheaply, and they grow very good rice, and they send back to their people. They can't even let us eat that rice that they grow. And of course, if they were to let us eat that rice that they grow on our soil, that would be an insult. Okay. Because you have the soil and you cannot use it. So our problem is the lack of the knowledge and the capacity, the technology, and the skills to use what we have to improve our well-being. Okay, we are out of time. Let me just take some time to read the many messages coming in. Hello, good evening. South Africa should be ashamed of what they are doing to their fellow Africans. It started like a play, and the government could do nothing. Same like that of Cameroon. They should not forget to know that after 2 years, we will have more stronger economies in Africa than theirs. Moses Brano writing from Bomenda. It's JJ. Stop calling, please. It's JJ Achu from Yaoundé. SA, stand up. Mandela weeps wherever he is now. Be still. Dear Cameroonians, be steadfast in prayer and hope in the Lord. He is never too late. Can't wait to enter the green pastured Cameroon. Dr. Ngwa, when I see dialogue, I see you. Wish you were sitting on the decision-making position. Cameroon's future. I'm sure he hinted on that already. I'm talking about Walang. Okay. Good evening. We know the fight is for the just cause, but education shouldn't be jeopardized. To me, parents should take
their children to school, hold up an abroad PTA meeting, and the resolution should be thus: the children must attend school. That in case Amber boys take any child or parent, then all of them will unanimously walk to the camps and take the child or the parent. That in case Amber boys touch anyone they take due to school issues, then they will be forced to face the people they are fighting for. That people should march to the streets requesting the military to go back to their barracks. It's Bobby writing from Boya. Stop calling, please. I cannot take your calls. South Africans are just being unreasonable. There is no country without a foreigner, and no country can live in isolation. These foreign educated people own businesses in South Africa, and they employ so many South Africans. I think they should see the benefits of these foreigners. Joel is writing from Boya. The following nations writing from Bamenda. The level of which the Anglophone crisis is. First, I first of all blame the ministers because the want crisis continue because there is where they make their riches. Second, the government don't listen to advice. Weber Joseph once say what will bring down Cameroon is the Anglophone crisis. Let's wait and see, okay? Hello, Stewart from Yaoundé. Things can't change if no roundtable discussions. May God help us in this crisis. The regime have decided not to put an end to this. For me, if the president calls back his troops, that will be a first step. God bless Cameroon. Siben Stewart writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you all. Please stop calling. I want to give you people time to listen to your messages. Hello, good evening. There is no problem without solutions. As the case of the Anglophone crisis, depriving children from not going to school is a bigger problem than is being created. Let's encourage children to go to school and wait for dialogue. Immortal Joe, writing from Kumba. Stop the calls, please. There is ghost town in Kumba and we can go to school, sent by Idrisu Benzema. This is a message to all the presidents in Africa and Nigeria in particular. They should return back to their various countries. Quincy Moses in Douala. Best school is GTHS, Canada. Good evening to you, Mr. Leo, and the panelists. For me, Elvis writing from PK 14. Please, South Africans we held in high esteem has now proven that it deserves the appetite. My best school is GS Zemboburu. Good evening, I'm Charles writing from Yaoundé. Let those who preach back to school enroll their own children in these two regions. School is good, but the terrain is not conducive. I love your program. Thank you. Allah know that I can't never forget those who avoid a moral act in the northwest and southwest. If our husband does not like us, why do we force ourselves to him? Okay. Mebu Cyril, good evening to all the panelists in the studio. Please let South Africans stop being lazy and barbaric. They should learn how to walk and stop complaining. If they must send foreigners away from their soil, at least it should not be by killing them. How can they be this violent to their fellow Africans? I am Mebu Cyril Joseph, writing from Boya. We have to end here. Thank you, Doctor, for coming.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with our listeners and with everybody. We hope that we've shared in a manner that would allow us to learn and make peace reign, especially in South Africa and Cameroon.
Amber is evil and evil is Amber. Make no mistake. James from Kumba, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Mr. Bean. Thanks to the millions of viewers who have watched this program today. We hope we lived up to your expectations, and we hope we will be able to do better next time.
Thank you for coming, Tamfu.
Thank you very much, Kum, for inviting me here today. And I hope that officials who are concerned in what's happening in Cameroon and those of South Africa are watching us and will do something about it to make sure that peace returns, because there's nothing equal to peace. Peace has no price. Thank you.
I love the way Doctor is speaking. View the whole scenario. He should have a place in the advisory committee in this nation. I'm getting fed up with a country I would have died for. Thank you, Desmond. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, DK Worthy. Thank you, Tabitha Bryant, who is supervising all we are doing out here. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.